Why do clients fail in process of getting into better shape whenever that was their main priority? Like the guy's like, dude, I'm all in. I have to get in shape this year. My daughter's getting married. Like, I have to do this. I am prioritizing this. This is what I'm doing. That guy, that day, who you hear saying that 3 months later, you can't get him on the phone. You can't get him motivated. You can't get him going. What happened?
Man, that is such a great question. And it's the question that I bet every coach has thought about and dealt with. And from my perspective, the number one reason is just an all or nothing mentality. Like, what works right now when you're motivated is not going to work 2 months later when life has hit you repeatedly in the nuts and you have no idea how you can even breathe and get through the day, let alone worry about a fitness plan. Yeah. And so this is where I really preach with my athletes and clients about there's the gray zone. Like, that's where the progress really is seen. Is it's not like when things are great and you're training great, that's awesome. You're going to hit PRs. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be wonderful. But when things are bad and you don't have all the time, you don't have the energy, what are we doing then that's going to bridge the gap to the next peak? And that's where, I like to call it like the ABC mentality. You talk about check downs, right? It's the same idea of, hey, if we have this A workout where you're going after, a 60-minute run or a full, 60-minute lift where it's intense, a lot of volume, all the fixings. If that's the A workout and the other option is, oh, I just don't do anything today, well, there's something in the middle. Yeah. And so it's, hey, if you don't have the time to go to the gym to do that full workout, or you don't have the energy, because that's a thing. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to push through, but when life actually happens and you've had a long day of work dealing with stress, whether it's family or work, whatever those relationships are, and you're just drained. Traffic, like whatever it is, like, it's one thing to say you're going to do it, but then in reality, when that moment comes up, are you actually going to do it? Most of the times it's no. And so it's, hey, let's build in the program so that you still feel accomplished from accomplishing a task, from completing a task. Let's build it in of saying, hey, I can't do that today, but I can do this. Maybe it's the volume's cut in half. It's stuff that you can do at home. You don't even have to travel to the gym. So it's squats, it's push-ups, it's throwing on your ruck pack and going for 20 minutes. I'm gonna put a 20-minute timer on and I'm just gonna move my body as hard as I can and just knock something out. Or maybe it's just, hey, this has been an extremely hard week, extremely hard day. I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna go for a 20-minute walk and I'm gonna record it as a workout. But giving clients the actual progression rather than just saying, hey, when you don't feel like going to the gym, just do something. What I've noticed is most clients won't do that. They won't like take the initiative on their own. But if you build it into their plan and say, hey, this is okay. Like, it's okay if you can't do an A workout, do a B or C workout. All of a sudden they're staying in process, and it allows those peaks and valleys that life gives us and kind of meshes our training with it. Because when you don't have that mesh, when it's only, here's the strict plan, you got to do this in order to see your results, oftentimes when motivation goes or life gets super busy, that goes to the wayside, and then you have that client that was super motivated at month one and in week one, but by 8 weeks in, they're nowhere to be found.
In the previous episodes, we talked about the importance of having margin to send it.
Yep.
In this episode, you're sharing me the importance to have the margin to check down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because that's actually more what happens. That's more consistently from a week to week, month to month, year to year standpoint, you're checking down, not checking up.
Yes, 100%. And this is where I think people get it mistaken of perfection is actually, it shouldn't be the goal. It's the result that comes from consistency. Like, people think I need to go and hit all of my workouts 100% as programmed, as planned. It's like, no, we're going to build you up to be able to do that. But from the start point, that might be the point.
Perfection only exist with proper execution.
Yes.
Proper execution only exists if you understand all the stimuluses and stressors and you're in touch with your reality of knowing how it will ebb and flow.
Yes.
So I have reached a very high level of perfection within my training.
Yep.
Because I had to do a really good job at being in touch with my reality to knowing the importance of my checkdowns. I tweet it all the time. 20-minute workouts are crazy effective. It's 20 minutes, it counts. I walk in the gym, and the best athlete I know, the guy who's doing the most crazy shit that I know, you, is here, and you looked at me and go, it's crazy what a 25-minute workout can do.
That's all I did.
Like, you're pouring sweat.
Yep.
You know, you're fucking shredded. You're literally shredded right now. You look at me and go, it's crazy what a 25-minute workout will do. Yep. Like, that was the first words that came out of your mouth when I saw you. You're breathing heavy, and that's what you said.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, we think that we need to get 45, 60, hour and a half workouts. And depending on your goal, yes, you're going to have those days. But a lot of what I do, I mean, most of my runs are 40 minutes. Most of my lifts, like, I just go in and I've become so good at just executing on the work that's in front of me that a lot of times if I'm spending an hour and a half in the gym, it's because I'm bullshit and I'm hanging with friends, I'm shooting videos, I'm tweeting out and things in between my sets. And if you have that luxury, it can be a fun way to do it. But the reality is, if you've ever done 20 minutes of constant work, you're gonna feel it. Like, it is a lot to actually do. And getting that idea ingrained in someone's head, especially early on, is so important. It's often the difference between someone completing and seeing success in their goals and not doing so. So having that margin, like you said, to check down, I think that's the biggest factor on whether someone's gonna be successful in what they set out to do, or fall off and become another person that just started and kind of failed.
A trend on social media, as you mentioned, is the importance of intensity, going in and getting 2 hard sets in, pushing to max capacity, pushing to failure. Intensity can also exist within a crunch time frame, right?
Yeah.
If you say, I'm doing as many push-ups, pull-ups, and squats as I can do in 20 minutes, all of a sudden the intensity increases.
Yeah.
But no longer are you just training from like growing bigger quads, chest. You're also improving your cardiovascular health.
Yeah.
So your intensity is also improving the cardiovascular health as well.
Yeah.
So when you begin to think in your training that I need to be very intense, like, I do not disagree. We have to find those levels of intensity within our training because it's important for competition day, as we mentioned in previous episodes. But I do want to go ahead and chop that a little bit as well and say, well, what do you mean by intense? Is it running just as fast as you can? Because one example that I have that I'm thinking about as I do quarter-mile sprints, and I'm at the beginning of my phase, I'm not sprinting as fast as I can for the quarter mile. Because I know that level of intensity is going to greatly affect my recovery the next few days. I need to build in to that intensity. I need to be actually 80% is actually my 100% if you base off of my ability to recover from it.
Totally.
So now I'm in touch with my body.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not running a 70-second, which would be pretty fast for me, quarter mile. I think a sub 60 is really awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm running like a minute 20 right now. And like, well, Zach, you can go faster than that for sure. But I won't be able to recover for 2 days from it.
Definitely.
So I have to monitor that intensity. I think one problem and one issue people run into when they buy into this intensity protocol and ensuring that they do it is they're extremely sore and fatigued the next day, which affects the next workout or even takes them away from the gym. But what can end up happening is they can find themselves getting injured.
Yes.
On the other side of it. And to me, injuries come because you're weak or you're overtrained, not from like a standpoint of like, oh, overtraining. Like, no, that specific muscle group is fatigued, it's overtrained. So your body begins to compromise for itself to keep it going. So as you compromise, that's when injury occurs. For instance, for me, doing more sprints and stuff, I just felt my Achilles getting a little tight. And after my session yesterday, I felt like, I was like, okay, I need to stretch this thing. I need to get myself in a really good position. I need to strengthen it as well. Doing more calf raises, doing more jump ropes. But I need to slowly increase that intensity over time so that I don't get myself injured. Yeah.
And with that, the only way that you can level yourself up and build your overall fitness goes back to the consistency piece. And if you're only focused on intensity and that takes away from consistency, then you're always going to be in this state. Like we all know the person that goes really hard, gets injured, falls off, then immediately, they have to take a month off, 2 months off, then they get back and they're super intense and the same thing happens again. It's like, well, if we pulled back the intensity and just said, hey, I'm just gonna check a box today, because I'm not feeling that. The stressors in life are beating me down as well. I'm just gonna check down, do something that's a little bit lower impact, but then it allows me to stay in the game more. All of a sudden, over the course of a year, instead of having to take 4 months, 5 months in total of where you're not getting any productive training out, you're going to have 12 months of stacking bricks, slowly increasing your overall baseline. And then once that baseline is set, that foundation is laid strong, then you can really have some fun with like, oh, hey, this specific training session, I'm going to push really hard, see what I can do. You're going to set a PR. You're going to set new levels that you can then go for. But it all comes down to, if we don't have a consistency needs to be the foundation, because everything else we build upon is reliant on that.
People talk about intensity and rest periods. So like lift real heavy, take 3 to 4 minutes to rest, go back in again. And this is where, we were hearing a lot of this on social media. And I don't disagree.
Totally.
To be honest, there's lots of parts of my training that do exist that way.
Yeah.
But for me, in my mind, even since I started powerlifting, I said, it's one thing to be able to lift a weight and then not be able to pick it up for 10 minutes because I have to recover from it. My goal was always to be able to lift that weight and pick it back up again in a fast amount of time as possible.
Yep.
Because that would make me a stronger organism than the next guy who needed to take 10 minutes to recover from it.
Yes.
So that's why I'd be in the gym doing 600 for sets of 5 deadlift, supersetting with sets of 10 muscle ups.
Yep.
Because I'm generating force.
Yeah.
And I was stronger than a guy who could do 600 pounds for 5 on deadlift, but need to take 5 minutes to fully recover before he gets back in again. I was like, no, we should always be shortening that period. So like if I've already had success being able to do a 1/4 mile sprint in a minute, but for my current level of training, it took me 3 to 4 minutes to be able to do it again. One metric of success that I would have is not actually getting faster on the 1/4 mile, but being able to do more of the 1/4 miles with a shorter rest period, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. I'd want to shorten my rest period. That's also another metric of success to be able to improve your overall fitness, is your ability to go back in the same exact exercise and meet the expectation that you did from the previous set.
Yes. And I also think, again, getting away from the idea of like, specialization, this is where this type of mentality of I can do something with less rest, like for the generalized athlete, like, yeah, okay, if you're going after top end strength, you should probably spend more of your time training in a way that is going to reflect what you're going to do in a competition, which is taking 3 to 5, 7 minutes between a max effort attempt. That makes sense. Most of it is the same thing with like, a sprinter or things like that. So this is where I think so many the people that we work with, the people that listen to this podcast, you don't need to specialize because you're going to raise your overall level of fitness and it's going to impact you in different areas, and you can do it in a way that is not like, you shouldn't train just with that one specialized approach, because I think in the long run it ends up hindering other areas of your own progress.
It's really cross-training too. You've said that word on the previous podcast. I like the vibe of cross-training. While I think we take our own approach to cross-training, you and I and probably everybody, like it's not CrossFit.
Yes.
It's not like Fit 45, but it's that type of vibe. It's that type of space. One thing that I think about my day-to-day life is like, what do I lift? 5-gallon waters for our water tank. Mm-hmm. All the time. My kid, moving up and down, crawling on the ground with him, taking my family on walks.
Yep.
I'm trying to think like, what do I do in my day-to-day life? I do these things. Sweet. So can you raise the intensity on those things within your training so that when you do it, it doesn't take any energy from you?
Yes.
So that's why when I say I have endless energy to play with my kid, it's because it doesn't take a ton of energy for me to crawl on the ground with him for 20 minutes and wear him out. Why? Well, because dad does 1 mile bear crawls.
Yeah.
So me bear crawl on the ground for 10 minutes to wearing out an 8-month-old is easy for me. So that's why this specific trial of training, like getting a little bit stronger, like picking up a 5 gallons is nothing for me. Well, you know why? Because I'm always picking things from the ground and pressing a 100-pound sandbag.
Yep.
So if I pick a 100-pound sandbag up 100 times in a training session, which I do on my Tuesdays, my day 2 of training, which always is my Tuesdays for me in that specific program, I snack this 100-pound bag off the ground and I press it overhead, Mike, and I do as many times as I can in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I love that.
So what ends up happening is me picking my kid up off the ground and pressing him overhead, throwing him up in the air. He's 20 pounds.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
Nothing.
Me picking up the
5 gallon.
The 5 gallon thing, the heater, anything that I need to pick up is nothing because the style of training that I'm doing, it's matching what I'm doing in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I think this is just to wrap this whole thing up. I love what you set your goal for 2024 and 2025, which is just get fitter. That's what people want, right? Like we say, oh, we want to get stronger. Oh, we want to get faster. It's like, yeah, but realistically, we never want our physical ability limited in our daily life.
Bro, I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm better looking. Just by improving my overall fitness, right? Because I think I look different when I'm too skinny. I think I look different when I'm too big. Yeah. It's just like, just improve my overall level of fitness. And for someone like me who's a strength specialist, that might mean I sacrifice some off the bar.
Yeah.
And for you who was a running specialist, not you in specific, but anybody who was a sub 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 45-minute marathoner, if you're starting to lift more weights, well, it might affect, you might become a 3-hour marathoner. You're going to lose a little off the top end, but where you're at right in the middle is going to be the most optimal version of you in all areas of life.
Quality of life maxing right there.